Okay, it is 12:30 and this meeting will come to order. First item is the roll call, and all of our trustees are here except for trustee Loss. And our treasurer is not here. Our attorney is here. So the first item on the agenda is discussion and possible engagement of a new liability insurance provider. Director, do you have some quotes?
I just checked 3 minutes ago. I have not received anything via email. I did speak with one of the brokers yesterday. There's been continuing follow-up questions from underwriters. But as in my conversation yesterday with MMA or Payne West, they are anticipating something tomorrow. And the information that I was given that one of the quotes is likely to come in very near in price to what we were quoted with ICRMP for full coverage. So I would characterize that as an exciting possibility.
Excellent.
Madam Chair, a representative from Redmond Insurance also conveyed that Travelers has declined and that Apex is still shopping 3 additional companies. They haven't given me a timeline if we'll get word back this week or Monday.
Okay. Sounds like our action on this will probably be postponed.
I would mention that the board may need to consider an emergency action if there isn't an insurance in place. Our coverage with ICRMP ends Saturday evening. We do have operations on Sunday. And so the action may need to be in terms of, from a risk standpoint, I would have the board consider closing, furloughing the staff and closing the buildings if we don't have any insurance. So that is a possibility depending on how this meeting goes.
So when would we do that?
It would be possible to do a 24-hour emergency notice.
Okay. Actually, I thought emergencies could be done with, if a special meeting requires 24-hour agenda and meeting.
Yeah.
An emergency can be less than that if there's imminent damage or loss, correct?
You do have to give a reason statement. Like I said, I think any time between now and Saturday at 11:59 p.m. would be appropriate. So you do have a little bit of latitude.
Chair
Attorney?
Austin, 74-204-2 states that a special meeting requires at least a 24-hour notice and agenda notice unless an emergency exists, and it defines what an emergency is, which includes a situation involving injury or damage to persons or property or an immediate financial loss or the likelihood of such injury, damage, or loss, when the notice requirements of this section would make such notice impractical or increase the likelihood or severity of such injury, damage, or loss, and the reason for the emergency is stated at the outset of the meeting.
Okay, and this qualifies under that?
It may, but we would have to perform that analysis at that time, but I would recommend if there's an action we can take now in preparation for that, we would discuss that and go ahead and take that appropriate action.
I'm sorry, I need to turn so that I can.
Yeah, that's the
everyone.
third time I've raised my hand, actually.
Okay, I apologize.
So I'm back to Alexa's original comment or update. You're saying that there is possibly a quote from a different company that is around the same price, but with full coverage that we just lost. Thank you.
Trustee Henley?
And then I want to clarify, when would we expect that quote or something in writing to be available? What's the estimate?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
He did notify them that we were meeting today and would appreciate that in advance. But underwriting has their own schedule and that was the date they had said is tomorrow. We should receive more than one quote from Payne West tomorrow. But he has said that as much possible time, even into Friday, would be a possible benefit to us.
Great, follow up one more.
Um,
Oh, sorry, Katie.
I didn't have anything. Okay, trustee Hanley?
I don't want to clarify, make sure I understand. So Redmond, which was, I guess, we'll call it the third possible option, was possible, when we, is there a sooner and the latest, we have some kind of a range and when they would have something available to us?
Just gonna say, I have not received any communication other than that they received it, but I believe Mr. Boyles.
The only indication I have is that Travelers declined and Apex has 2 or 3 carriers that are still potentially on the table. I don't have a date for that. No hard date like tomorrow or Friday.
And I would just clarify that Payne West was getting quotes for those 2 large companies, which they were saying would be excellent for providing the service that we needed, but there were multiple other agencies that they were getting quotes from as well. So they really were doing quite a few, but those were the 2 specific applications that I filled out and that they thought might suit our needs.
Trustee Foss?
Would I be online to make a motion to just simply adjourn and reschedule this meeting for Friday? When we have all the quotes.
We do have other items on the agenda that we could attend to. I don't know that you're out of line, but there's that to consider.
Well, maybe postpone these first items and just get to your other ones, the liability insurance, executive session. Well, I guess we would just go to the legal counsel recommendations.
Director, you had something?
I was just going to mention, depending on how all of this plays out with the other items, it is possible for the board to make a motion authorizing the director to review all of the quotes that we received at a certain day and time, let's say Friday at noon or something like that, and to authorize the expenditure up to a certain dollar amount, 75,000 or whatever it may be. And then that might be a consideration if the board is interested in that, moving it forward. And that way we would ensure having some liability coverage.
I would like to have all the quotes on the board, or have all the quotes received if possible, just so we can compare them all.
Sure. I would just say that I feel pretty confident that the board's direction and interest is to receive a quote that most closely matches what we had with our previous carrier with those limits and is very mindful of the cost. So those would be the 2 primary factors in reviewing any quote, is how closely they align with our budget and how closely they align with what our previous coverage was.
Trustee Mike?
So if we don't have quotes from both companies, then the suggestion is we wait until we have quotes, which would mean we'd have no insurance, which then the suggestion is that we'd close. Is that what, I guess I'm asking the director that, that's what I heard. If we don't have insurance by Friday, or by Saturday, we need to consider closing. So if we wait, if we have viable quotes by Friday, but they're not with, I don't know who, are we going to wait? And then what kind of risk does that put the library in?
The library still has the option to move forward with ICRMP. And possibly, that's why I say I don't want to, there's several possibilities for the board to consider.
Trustee Hanley?
Yes, I was curious, more of a question for the library director. I thought I heard in the past that we've used Payne West either continuously or off and on for 20 years. I thought I heard that once. What did we use them for? I mean, if we've been using ICRMP, I'm not sure how Payne West has fallen into this with the library in the past. Because I don't think it's our first use of them, potentially.
My understanding is that we have used them for 20 something years, except for this past year. They were on a list of ICRMP possible brokers. And so they have been representing the district for a considerable amount of time. And one of those considerations for me is that, you know, their fiduciary responsibility to us is probably higher because they've been representing us for so long.
Yes, Trustee Hanley?
So if I understand, we've had Payne West then for maybe, I'll just say 19 years, and only this year did we have ICRMP in this current fiscal year?
We contracted directly with ICRMP without a broker this year, and we saved about $5,000.
Trustee Blink?
So had we needed to contract with them? I don't know. You don't know though. Nobody knows.
Needed to
Well, if we didn't contract with them this year, why have we been contracting with them in previous years?
So I'm going to restate that. I think your question is, why would we use an insurance broker? Is that the question or not?
Not now. I understand why we're using one now.
Okay.
But you said we didn't use them last year. We contracted directly. But I realize you don't have the history for this, and I should and don't, you know. I was just curious. I think that's close to what the trustee to my right.
It's kind of asking.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Janelle?
In prior years, we've used Payne West to represent us to ICRMP. This last year, ICRMP gave us the opportunity to continue having a broker represent us or contract directly with ICRMP, and there was a financial savings, and so we went directly to ICRMP.
Okay, so we have it.
Trustee Bobs?
So in any of this time with Payne West, did they give alternate quotes with other companies, commercial companies, or they just simply were representing ICRMP or the intermediary between us and ICRMP?
Over the course of my tenure, we had not had Payne West bring forth another quote for a policy because ICRMP had always been the cheapest.
Trustee Bobs?
But we didn't know that. We just kept going with Payne West with ICRMP. I mean, did you ever get a competitive quote through Payne West?
Would probably have been before my tenure and before I was in admin.
Trustee Hanley?
So would it be reasonable, given where we are now, to put a deadline on getting a third, we'll call it a quote, and say if it's not in by, let us say, noon on Friday, that we just entertain the two we have in hand? Or do we give it till Monday? I'm not sure what direction we should consider going, but obviously we can't suspend this decision indefinitely. We can't leave the library closed for a week. Well, we could, but it's not probably prudent or necessary. So I'm just curious, do we want 3 quotes in hand, or do we say 2 are good enough if that's all we have by Friday at a certain time? I'm not, just curious where we think we should go.
Trustee Bobs? Wait, I'm sorry. Trustee Robinson hasn't spoke as many times as you have.
Thank you. I'm inclined to agree with my fellow trustee. I think that if we have to postpone this till Friday, that we should just go with what we have in hand. I certainly wouldn't support shutting down the libraries, when we actually have options.
Trustee Claus?
So that's what I was going to advocate is 1 o'clock meeting or something on Friday afternoon and whatever we have at that point. I think I, as a trustee, would like to be involved and make sure that it's in the decision. So I'm for just meeting on Friday.
Okay, maybe we could do that at 4. That way we give the insurance companies every opportunity to come through. Director?
I would just say 4 PM is probably pretty late. The brokers are usually able to begin coverage or to verbally engage us. But we do have some contracting things that say our contracts must be in writing. And I do not know their hours and if they're in the office Friday at 4 or 5 o'clock by the time the meeting is done. So I would say that's probably some unknown factors that could influence us having coverage inadvertently.
Okay, attorney?
Chair Addison, also, many of these carriers operate on the East Coast as well, which would be 2 o'clock close of business for them. And I would recommend that we have coverage bound prior to any expiration of coverage. So best case scenario would be close of business Friday, really, with other the constraints we have, understand that.
Or even possibly having a meeting Thursday night, after we've received everything we have Thursday. That would fit better with my own schedule.
The time is up for this one. Maybe we could revisit that. Excuse me, when we get down to set special and regular meeting dates.
Yeah, one more hand there.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Blank?
This is so important that it seems to me that going overtime might be valuable if they're in case, I mean, this is the point of this whole meeting, is making sure we get a plan to get insurance in place. So, you know, I certainly would encourage us to do what we can. If we're done discussing, great. And if a plan is moving forward and if everybody has some idea of what they're gonna do, great. But otherwise, why don't we stay here until we get something clear? I mean, we're kind of in dire circumstances right now.
Okay, well, as the director said, we could close the libraries if need be. So that's an option, probably not the best, but Trustee Claus?
Well, since this is the action item, I move a motion that we schedule a meeting, a special meeting Friday at 1 o'clock to look at whatever quotes we have at that time and then make our decision.
Okay, I have, hold on, I need to get the motion. Okay, so you moved to schedule a special meeting Friday at 1 o'clock, and what was the rest of that? Or is that?
To review whatever quotes, insurance quotes we have at that time and make a decision.
Okay, it has been moved to schedule a special meeting Friday at 1 o'clock to review whatever insurance quotes we have at that time. Okay. All right, so we have discussion, Trustee Henley?
Do we need a motion to schedule a meeting?
Deal.
I don't know.
This is an action item.
Okay, I don't.
So yeah, that would be the action, Trustee Blake?
I don't think it's illegal to have a motion to schedule a meeting. First of all, and secondly, has anybody checked whether there will be a quorum? Because as you all know, I won't be there. And the director needs to be there. So has anybody checked to see whether that's actually gonna work?
Okay, everyone check your calendars.
Is it Thursday or Friday? Right.
Friday at 1 o'clock.
That's what the motion is.
Okay, my Friday is completely open.
I'm available.
I've already disclosed to the chair that I have obligations and will be out of town And I've already done quite a bit of moving around of those obligations. I was under the direction from the last meeting that we would not be meeting, we would be meeting today. So I've made other arrangements. In terms of internet access, I feel confident to be able to access email or cell service, but remote access, I do not have a secured remote access at this point.
Would the assistant director be able to stand in your place? Is there anyone else?
Well, and I would refer you to counsel about whether or not it's required that the director be in attendance. That's typically how I understand that statute.
True.
Can I hear from the attorney first?
I know that the open meeting law allows any member to attend via telecommunication device, so long as they are able to interact and clearly hear everyone. I'm reading right now the specific provision in the public library district section related to director's attendance. So I need just a couple minutes to take a look at that and read that specifically.
Okay, try the class.
I was just going to offer another alternative. I thought 3 members had to be, for an open meeting, had to have a agenda and have it announced. And that's all that was said, but I'm clerk. I can act as secretary as far as I would think, just as long as there's at least 3 members.
Okay, trustee Blank.
I think we need to wait to hear from our attorney. I think that might be a misinterpretation of what the code says about, director attendance. That I don't think the clerk stands in ever for the director.
My only other concern would be if we do need to have an emergency meeting, my recommendation would be to, for the safest path, allow 24 hours. And so my preference would be Thursday evening. I'm available before I leave town. We could do that at 5 or 6 after the close of business for these companies, which was kind of alluded was probably going to be East Coast. And review and then allow time for an emergency meeting.
Trustee Blank.
Did you, this is a question for the director. Did you say that quotes might come in on Friday? Or was it said that quotes might come in on Friday or, would Thursday be too early?
I guess my most direct response would be, we have nothing in our hands today except for a policy renewal with ICRMP. And so it is possible that we will not have anything from these companies that would suit our needs.
So perhaps our best option then is to move at this, or well, after we dispense with the main motion, to move that we close the libraries if we don't get other quotes in time.
I'm thinking, let me think.
Trustee Claus.
I think waiting until Friday gives you more opportunity for something to still come in. I think I thought you said Payne West had something they were going to deliver. I'm looking for the other company to still come in with something. And I would rather wait as long as we could till 1 o'clock.
Trustee Blank.
Is the meeting legal without the director? Especially, all right, I thought that you were just about to answer that, but especially when it comes to completing the negotiation.
Bernie.
It looks like Idaho Code 33-27-21 states that the library director or director team shall attend all executive sessions of the Board of Trustees. I'm still reading, making an effort to read through the entire statute just in case there's something else there. That speaks directly to an executive session, and it does allow the director or director team to attend. So I think Director Eccles, based upon that section, would have the authority to delegate a team potentially to attend.
So usually that statute is interpreted as districts are allowed to have more than one director or co-directors, which we have had in the history of Community Library Network. So usually that citation does not mean administration. And so I'm just clarifying, it's usually co-directors and not like a team member, if that is a better clarification.
Trustee Blank?
I would say that that is true. I was around when this was put together and we had a co-director team. And so they were addressing specifically the co-director team that was hired as a co-director team, not a director, assistant director.
Trustee Claus?
So maybe legal counsel can explain, but it doesn't make sense to me that the statutes put us in such a bind that only one person, but the meetings depend on one person. What if the director resigns? What if we want to go into an executive session to have a performance review and we don't want her present? What if, what if she's just not available? She can't hold us hostage to stop our meetings. It doesn't make sense that the statutes would be so specific that it would be one person only.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense if there was an emergency and it was difficult to get to the meeting place. You know, that might prevent some people from getting there. Trustee Henley?
And if I understood the counsel correctly, that was for an executive session. Will this be done as an executive session? Is that what we're anticipating? Because we're not in an executive meeting right now. So is that only required for executive sessions or is that required for all meetings?
Director?
There is additionally, when he finds it, information relating to that. It does say that the only reason why the director will not be in executive session is essentially if it's to discuss the performance of the director. So that is the one exception, that the director is not in attendance in executive session. But generally it is understood that the director must be in attendance. It says in my employment contract that I must attend all trustee meetings. There's quite a bit of documentation for the council to review. But that is my understanding. And that's why I'm recommending, if possible, we could meet Thursday at 7 or another time. I can also, like I said, review whether or not I can secure an internet connection, but I will not be in town.
Trustee Robinson?
I think we need to kind of break down the logistics. Because if we don't do it on Thursday and she's not here, and she can't be here for Friday, and Lindsay also is not here Friday. And it's end of day Friday, if we wait till Friday. If we wait until Friday and director could zoom in or whatever we do here. Trying to think this through. Friday is, from what I understood earlier, would possibly be too late to secure a new policy anyway, because then things are closed on Saturday. Regular businesses, not the library, and Sunday. So if we're talking about this Friday meeting, we don't even know if we're going to have more quotes. We don't know if any staff is going to be here, and insurance company is going to be closed. So it has to, in what I'm hearing is it either has to be Thursday evening or Friday morning if Alexa could zoom in. Am I wrong on that?
Trustee Claus?
I think the consideration is they may not be able to be open and give us binding by 2 p.m. or after 2 p.m. Friday, because if they're East Coast company, they might close at 5. So I think we have time up until, if we meet at 1, we have time at 4:30 to get at 4:30 their time to still get a binding. it isn't that they're gonna be closed Friday, because then it wouldn't help you to meet Thursday night. Friday
Not,
would be
no, I didn't
closed
say that
anyway.
they'd be closed Friday. I said that the business time will be closed possibly by the time we get done with our.
Well, that's why we do it at 1 o'clock, so that we have time to make our decision, go with what we've got. And 1:30 our time, we should be able to get a binding from one of the insurance companies.
Trustee Blank?
I know that, my broker closes at 4 o'clock on Fridays. I happen to know this because a lot of times I try to call them later than that. So at 2 o'clock, if it is back east, if we're here at 1 o'clock, that puts it at 4 o'clock. I mean, that's really edgy. I mean, if you're really trying to do something, like you really think you can, it seems like Friday, earlier would be more logical. I mean, because I could see this taking perhaps an hour or more. And then it's 2 o'clock and then if they close at 4 on Fridays, then it's a problem. It seems to me like either Thursday evening or Friday morning would be a more logical time to, I mean, it's a long shot to begin with, but it's a more logical long shot to be able to, if they are back east people, to go either Thursday night or Friday morning.
Trustee Robinson?
Could we maybe hear about what it would entail to actually, close down the library for 1 to 2 days? What that looks like?
Director?
How you go about doing it and what it means for the employees? Are they still paid?
Before we change the subject.
That's not changing the subjects.
That seems very crucial.
Yeah. I would say that, it's a significant communication effort to the public as well as staff. My concern would be inviting the public in when we don't have any liability coverage. My concern would be staff driving vehicles or operating. We have both the Hayden Library and the Post Falls Library open on Sundays, as you know. If it rolls into Monday, that would be significant more impact for all locations. It would essentially be furloughing staff, so there would need to be a determination on that. And then, so it would be significant. And I don't know if Lindsay wants to add anything else, but it would be significant. I would potentially recommend that the board move forward with ICRMP at that point, or a serious consideration with ICRMP. And then I know there's consideration in the joint powers agreement for if we choose to try to move to a different company and different things like that. But I think I would recommend to the board seriously considering ICRMP's renewal instead of closing to the public and to staff. That still may be our only option. Again, I'm just going to frame this as I said on Monday to somebody, that I have in my hand promises. I do not have anything in my hand, and we have very limited time left. And some of these companies have been working on this for 3 weeks. Some of the companies have been working on it a week. There's still questions coming back. There's no predicting when the information is going to come out of underwriting. Even with the brokers, they're just giving us estimates. So I would probably recommend moving forward with ICRMP rather than closing, so that we have coverage, and then reviewing that at another time.
Trustee Klaus?
Oh, I was just gonna say, before we got onto that, as far as the timing of the meeting, the binding for the insurance is given by the broker. We don't need a East Coast company to stay open till after 5 to do it. That they have the authority locally. I don't know whether Payne West is local, but the other company is local, or broker is local, and they can bind it certainly by 2 o'clock for us. I'm just looking for to maximize the amount of time to get the quotes in and make a decision with what we have at that time. And I don't see why we can't have a backup if the internet remote connection doesn't work for the director, have a backup. And have that as part of our plan for the meeting. So if the connection doesn't work, then Janelle or somebody is the secretary.
Attorney, did you find anything where there could be an alternate at a special meeting?
The only provision of the statute that speaks to a mandatory duty for the director to attend is this provision that I quoted, which relates to executive sessions. If the duty is created by an employment contract, I mean, that's a separate issue I would need to analyze. It certainly could be waived by the board, whether or not it would create liability from the director's standpoint to do that. I think certainly she's entitled to come. She's not prohibited from attending via telecommunication device. So I think she does have that option, whether it be video conference or telephone conference. But again, that's sort of subject to any special provisions in the employment agreement that may exist related to in-person attendance, but in general, that's not a requirement. So I'm available either day to make it work. You could notice both days and not have a meeting. And then you could also discuss authorizing within parameters, the director and the chair to bind some type of insurance as long as it meets parameters, if it truly gets to that point as well. So I think you have several options at that point to consider to get this done. But my recommendation remains that we bind coverage before our current coverage expires.
Okay, and Director, would you be willing to delegate someone else if for whatever reason you can't call in?
I would just express concern. That's not my understanding of the statutes. I didn't have time to pull that up for you. So I would just express concern that isn't my understanding, that I have that authority. My understanding is that I must attend all meetings.
I wasn't making that recommendation. I simply meant to convey that my opinion, she may attend remotely. But I wasn't recommending that she not attend. She's been an integral part of finding the quotes, reviewing the quotes, analyzing the quotes, and I think we would need her opinion on which policy is most appropriate.
Yes, I would just maybe clarify if there were concerns that my responsibility is to the organization, and I am open to any quote that best meets our requirements. So like I said, I feel comfortable reviewing whatever we get as late as possible and giving people as much possible time and offering the board that as an option so that we don't lose coverage. I think that I'm concerned by what the board is discussing just from a risk standpoint. Again, you know, when this first renewal option came out, you know, I began to get quotes immediately and have in good faith been working to get as much information and as much options as we could. I understood from the trustees that we want 5 million in this, 3 million in this, and a policy that covers us to that same scope. And so I would just offer the reassurance that I'm willing to, if the board feels comfortable with the authorization, to contact the organization for coverage with the best possible plan from whomever that comes from as late as possible.
Trustee Hanley?
Yeah, I would not feel comfortable signing off with ICRMP without at least one alternate company to be with an offer on the table to us, because it does limit our coverage. ICRMP does in several areas, and in one area, no coverage. So I don't feel that that's a wise risk to leave the library open with. And I think that considering taxpayers in mind, I want to make sure we get the best value. So I would not feel comfortable without at least entertaining two options, at least ICRMP and one other place. If that's Payne West, fine. If there's also the third party, Redmond, that's great too. But if we don't have at least two options to look at, I prefer to let the coverage lapse, close the library on Sunday and leave it closed on Monday until we can discuss this and make a decision.
Trustee Robinson?
Since these are complicated matters, I don't know a lot about closing down. I would like to refer everybody to what counsel just told us, and that he definitely recommends that we don't let it lapse. And I'm not sure exactly, maybe counsel could tell us his reasons for that.
Sure. So typically the policies only cover an occurrence that happens within the period that's provided of coverage under the policy. So if our insurance policy lapses and an event does happen that would otherwise be covered Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the insurer will likely know about that before we bind the additional coverage, and they could deny us, a retroactive coverage, a gap, and they can say, all right, we'll cover you, but that huge horrible thing that happened on Monday, it's not included. And so it's a risk that I think the board, certainly I am not qualified or authorized to make that decision. I think the board, with the advice of the director, can make that type of a risk decision using their best business judgment. And in this case, we've recommended to get 2 or 3 quotes, so that way you're exercising that sound business judgment rule. If that's not practically available, then that would alleviate your liability to not consider those additional options. At that point, you're just making the decision based upon the best information you have. Does that answer the question?
It does, and thank you. And I would like to point out that if any trustee is thinking, well, if the libraries are closed, nothing can happen, that's completely not true. Somebody could come and try to break in and get hurt, cut on the glass as they're breaking in, and they could sue. Or somebody could come in the parking lot and hit the building, or slip on ice that isn't there yet, but you get what I'm saying. Even if the buildings are closed down and they're empty, there could still be liability. Is that correct?
It's always liability.
Okay, so at a previous meeting, someone had suggested that we could maybe just extend our current policy by 1 month. Is that even an option, or no? Okay.
Just to clarify, because I shook my head, I did send an email to the board from a conversation with Mr. Osborne, the executive director of ICRMP, and he was clear that one policy ends and that we've been offered a policy renewal, and that goes into effect at like midnight on the 1st, essentially, or the 1st of the day.
Okay, Trustee Glass?
So we have Idaho statute. I don't have them in front of me, but one of the things is we, as trustees, are obligated to provide the financial well-being of the district, blah, 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 and insurance. So we have to provide insurance. So I'm not interested in having it lapse because we have the Idaho statute saying we provide it. So I am looking for Friday by 1 o'clock to have whatever quotes we have and review them. If all the quotes we know of, I guess, came in Thursday and there aren't any more to come Friday, and we change that, or maybe we schedule 2 meetings Thursday if we don't have them all, Thursday at 7 or 5, if we don't have them all, then we cancel that meeting and we go to 5. So I'm looking for 2 meetings, maybe. One or the other.
Trustee Blank?
I missed that 2 meetings.
Schedule 2 meetings.
Like
So we have-
Thursday.
So we have
Thursday.
24-hour, 48-hour notice, Thursday at 5
Oh.
and Friday at 1. And Friday after, or Thursday afternoon, the director can tell us, we've got all the quotes we're gonna get. Then we cancel the Friday meeting and we go and do the 5 o'clock. If by 4 o'clock Friday, she still doesn't have any quotes, or by Thursday, then we cancel the Thursday and go to a Friday.
Okay, so you would like to change your motion to, you move to schedule a special meeting Thursday at 5, or special meetings, Thursday at 5 p.m. and Friday at 1 o'clock to review whatever insurance quotes we have at that time.
Possibly, should he just withdraw his original and completely reframe a new one?
Okay, was the one that I read.
We had,
But would you have to amend it? You'd have to amend it.
we haven't voted on it yet, but, okay.
Okay, so you withdraw
I'll
it and then
withdraw
make this one?
the other motion and make a motion to schedule 2 special meetings, one Thursday at 5 and a second one Friday at 1. With the intent of canceling one of them. Anyway, well, I was gonna say that. At 5 on Thursday and at 1 on Friday to review all the quotes available at that time and make a decision.
Okay, so, motion to schedule 2 special meetings, Thursday at 5 PM and 1 o'clock on Friday to review all insurance quotes, we have at that time. Okay, it has been moved, to schedule 2 special meetings, one at Thursday at 5 PM and 1 o'clock on Friday to review all insurance quotes we have at that time.
He also said,
Further,
and make a decision.
oh, and make a decision. Okay, it has been moved to schedule 2 special meetings, one Thursday at 5 o'clock and one at 1 o'clock on Friday to review all insurance quotes we have at that time and make a decision. Trustee Henley.
Should it say we have to have 2 quotes? Should it say that? Because we still only have 1. That makes a difference maybe. And the other question I had was, I thought the director said that she was looking towards 7 PM maybe on Thursday. I don't know why. Maybe it was an availability issue. But was 5 o'clock preferred over 7? I'm indifferent. I can do either one.
Either one.
Oh.
Director?
I'm available.
Okay. All right, Trustee Blank.
This was a question that didn't get, my hand was not acknowledged in the last one. I just wanted to know, is ICRMP, if a boiler fails and floods and stuff, is ICRMP our insurance company for that? Yeah, it is. Okay, so it is true that there's a whole lot of stuff that could happen, even if there are no bodies in here. Okay.
The building could burn down.
The largest claim that we've had in the 5 years was related to an ice storm and to a physical facility. So it does cover our buildings and vehicles and staff.
Trustee Robinson?
Just in case there is a quorum issue, I will not be able to attend Thursday at all, but I would be able to attend Friday.
Okay, I'm available both. Trustee Henley, are you available for both?
I'm available for both.
Trustee Blank, you're not.
Neither.
Oh. Okay, Trustee Foster?
I'm available for both times.
Okay, so that would give us a quorum. And I think that having the 2 options there gives us more time to, make sure on the issue of, the director, being there on Friday, through electronic means or whatever. Are we ready to vote then? Just director?
I would just add that my preference would be for a meeting Thursday. And then, like I said, in the financial management policy, just to point out and remind the board that in terms of contracting, the reason why this is being brought to the board is because the amount is likely in excess of $50,000. It does say that ongoing annual contracts are exempt from the $50,000 requirement. And so I've been very respectful that this is essentially a policy change or anything like that. But I do believe after Thursday that it would make sense, instead of calling another meeting, just to authorize the director to expend up to over that $50,000 if there's by chance any other things that come in. So that would be my preference. I feel like there's a lot of risk. I think is still the best answer to that we would be waiting too late Friday for closing the libraries and doing all of that preparation work. If we wait until a decision on Friday.
Okay, well, that can be further discussed on Thursday. Needed, so Trustee Bloss?
But the expectation I have is that the director lets us know mid-afternoon, Thursday, 4 o'clock, whatever, that folks, I still don't have any quotes. So we have the opportunity to cancel that meeting without actually meeting. But just keep us updated where you are with what's come in. If you've got one quote, we could still meet and review it.
I will send any quote I receive immediately to all members of the board.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there is no further discussion, it has been moved to schedule 2 special meetings, Thursday at 5 p.m. and 1 o'clock on Friday to review all insurance quotes we have at that time and make a decision. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it sounds like it is unanimous and the motion passes to schedule 2 special meetings, Thursday at 5 p.m. and 1 o'clock on Friday to review all insurance quotes that we have at that time and make a decision. So next we have executive session, Idaho Code 74-206 1F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated, but imminently likely to be litigated. Do you have a motion, Trustee Blank?
I absolutely don't know what this is about. And so I mean, there are very specific reasons why we go in, but I'm not aware of any pending litigation or controversies that need to be in executive session. I'm not asking for details, but I'd like to know what is the reason for us going into, I mean, what's the general reason? Not other, more than this. I have no idea why this is on the agenda. And I think that that's a lack of transparency when a board member doesn't have any idea.
We had this discussion at our last board meeting and it was apparent exactly why, and everyone,
What was
Agree
it
to it.
concerning? Okay, I'm still not clear. Okay, once again, you may attribute this. I'm not trying to pull a fast one. I really don't know why. I understood from the last agenda why we might be going in, but when this one got really changed around, I'm not trying to play a game. And you can push it up to a dementia if you'd care to. However, I don't understand what the general gist of why we're going into executive session.
I can
Is
take a
it
guess.
concerning the ICRMP appeal letter? Is it concerning, I'm not certain, is it concerning, I don't know.
Trustee Hanley,
So, I was just gonna guess, so never mind.
Trustee Robinson.
2 things. I don't understand why that can't just be answered. And especially if it's been said at a different meeting. So I don't know why it does seem secret if it won't even be said out loud. But my actual point is I absolutely have to leave here at 1:30. So I wouldn't vote to go in executive session anyway, because I would miss out on it. And I've been dying to know what this is about. So I literally have to leave at end, and I made this clear when we made this special session that I would have to be out of here at 1:30. This first agenda item, 15 minutes, took over 45 minutes. So when these agendas are being made, I think more care needs to go into what is on them and how long it actually takes for us to discuss them. I say triple everything that you ever put down. Now, I mean, we got through one thing. And you guys might go on with the meeting, but I have to leave. And it was clear when we came up with this special. And now we have 2 more special sessions this week. 3 days in a row of special sessions. That people have to put on their calendar and not schedule other things in their life, is what I'm saying. Don't forget also, this takes away from staff, time, effort, and you expect them to take your orders, go complete them, yet we have another meeting 2 days later. And then they don't have the answers you're looking for because they didn't have time to do it.
Trustee Claus.
I don't think we need to have an executive session to discuss anything with ICRMP letters, anything. I'm not interested in discussing it until after we see the quotes myself. So I would probably not want to go to executive session.
Okay, so if that being the case, then maybe we should put an executive session on our Thursday and or Friday meetings. If we need to discuss the ICRMP letter, that should be done in executive session. Trustee Blank.
Is that what this is about? Is the executive session about discussing the ICRMP letters? You just said it, but is that what it's
That is
about?
one.
Okay, what's the other stuff?
I'm not sure if we needed an executive session for the ALA thing. Was that it?
Just for review.
My understanding is that the executive session is meant to discuss, for me to render legal advice to the board related to our responses to the letters we received from Americans United for Separation of Church and State, Owens, McCrae, and Lynn Scott, authored by Regina McCree, and Freedom from Religion Foundation. Since they have all three issued letters that very clearly convey an intent for them to take legal action against the board. I have draft letters and legal analysis I'm ready to share with the board. And I can only do that with a majority consent of the board, not an executive session, because it would waive privilege. So I would need a consensus from the organizational client, which is the board. That's my understanding.
Director?
I'm just gonna say, I apologize then, because I thought this was in response to the board directing me the last time to review with legal counsel our ICRMP appeal. So I did think that this was, so I, to the point that I think we need to be very, very clear when we're going into executive session, what that reason is. Because I think I just heard 3 reasons.
Okay, and all those have to do with possible future litigation. So, Trustee Blank.
Okay, so the attorney wasn't clear as to why we were going in. I wasn't clear. I heard a comment from another trustee, they weren't clear. I would like us to be clearer. If this is going, if this is going on either agenda, if an executive session is going on either agenda for Thursday or Friday, I would like to have it very clear for what it is. And also I would like to understand, I mean, the ICRMP is not a litigation, is it? I mean, it's an appeal. And this is about litigation. And so I'm not understanding. Anyway, I want us to be extremely clear. And I would say that there's such lack of clarity about what this executive session is for today that I would clearly say that we should not be doing it.
Trustee Allen?
I'm not certain I understand what the last trustee is asking for, and if not now, for future meetings. We obviously have a new chair over the last several months, but I believe meetings that took place over the last several years simply cite the executive session and the Idaho Code and don't go into detail as to anything on there. I don't believe they did. So I'm not sure, are we supposed to write out several sentences on the agenda as to what we're going to discuss in executive session?
Trustee Blank?
Very often, it was very clear why we're going into executive session in previous years, and most of our executive sessions had to do with hiring a director, and it says that in the code. So it was, and it says for the purposes of hiring a director. I'm not asking for several sentences, and I think that was very clear. I am asking for simply a general reason. Letters that we've received, as was just stated, that's a good reason. ICRMP appeal, and then I would say, is that litigation? That kind of thing. I'm not asking for a sentence. And all I'm saying is, in the spirit of transparency and openness, having an understanding, especially among board members, about why we are going into executive session seems pretty essential legally.
Trustee Claus?
So I think this was very clear. Says to discuss legal ramifications of pending litigation or controversies, and that completely covers what legal counsel just said. The fact that the action item right after it was to approval of the letter to ICRMP, and also right before that, legal counsel recommendations. That is what we were going to discuss in the executive session. That's why the action item is right after it. So it's very clear to me, but I don't think we need to go through the whole ICRMP appeal letter and discussion. That part of it we shouldn't do until we get the quotes.
Okay, so our time is up. First, I would like to get consensus. Should we just move all of the items that we didn't get to the Thursday and or Friday? Trustee Blank?
I am not sure what, review legal counsel recommendations, authorize insurance and a release of resolutions. I'm not sure what that covers. Also, the, discussion of that seems to me like we're adding a whole bunch of stuff that I don't understand. And I didn't have time because we just got this yesterday. The discussion of the 9/21/2023 trustee continuing education, I don't know what part of continuing education, but I have a serious concern, some serious concerns, and I asked for the one on the Robert's Rules of Order. I will not be here on Friday. I would like to be there. In addition, I have not received this. I didn't even know this was going to be on the agenda until yesterday. And I have not had enough time to put into it. I have some serious concerns that I would like talked about. So I would like that particular discussion moved to our regular meeting in October. I am uncomfortable with the fact that we got an agenda and then yesterday, a whole bunch of other things were added to it and we had no chance to respond.
Okay, I had tried to work with getting things on the agenda starting on Friday, and my first email was ignored. I made several other requests and was denied. And then, so I just was able to get that through. Otherwise, it would have been earlier than that. And I apologize that it's a bit of a jumble. Trustee Claus?
I completely think it's necessary today to do this release of resolution. And what that is to find out if our resolution passes the sniff test with legal counsel so that we can bring that to closure and be done. So I want that still done today.
We would need a motion to extend the meeting for 2 minutes past time.
I move to extend the meeting 10 minutes.
Okay, it has been moved to extend the meeting 10 minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it and the motion is carried. The meeting has been extended 10 more minutes. Director?
I would recommend that we add to one of our agendas, the preparation of an agenda, some details, so we have some core understanding. In reference to the comment made earlier, I believe that it would have been a violation of the board's public vote from the last meeting to have canceled the meeting, since it was consensus that we were going to have a meeting today and that there were going to be 4 topics and such. And so I really, in fairness, as we've kind of said, we have a new chair, we have new trustees. I really think it would benefit everybody if we came to an agreement of how we wanted to operate. I think there's also some lack of clarity relating to 48 hours, 24 hours, and notice to trustees and in writing, or whether it's just meeting notice and if it's a full agenda or partial agenda, or I think it would benefit everybody from having actual time on a meeting agenda to talk about that, because I don't want to be indelicate, but I believe that I was being asked to violate a law. And so that was why there was some pushback on that conversation in writing.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't want you to violate the law, and I appreciate your counsel. Trustee Henley?
I think that the open meetings manual, the book, is pretty clear on the amount of notice needed for trustees and the amount of notice for the public, and and the time frame and when we need to publish an agenda. And then going back to another trustee's comment, I would like to see us discuss the ALA resolution. We talked about it at the last meeting. It was sent to legal counsel for review, and it does not appear to be, it should not be a lengthy agenda item. So it either passed legal review or it did not, or it was amended.
Okay, yeah, I think we've been drifting a little bit. So the next item is to review legal counsel recommendations and to release a resolution. So, Attorney Boyles, do you, what do you have on the, ALA resolution?
I received, some concerns late Monday afternoon, regarding several items of the policy that I would like to make sure I'm able to thoroughly resolve. And we spent Tuesday working on insurance. So I don't feel like I've had an adequate amount of time to address those concerns that were brought to me. I'm not saying that the concerns were brought to me untimely, just that I received an email at 4:21 PM on Monday and wasn't able to get to it Monday. And Tuesday, our focus obviously was addressing insurance the entire time. And so I would be prepared to address that. I could expedite it. I don't know if I'd recommend putting it on Thursday or Friday, since we don't know what meeting we're gonna have and we need to focus on insurance. Certainly by the next regular meeting, it's enough, but I will defer to the chair on what my deadline for that would be, but I just was not able to address those concerns that I received on Monday to be prepared today to make a recommendation to the board.
Okay, well, if we're putting an executive session on there anyway for the ICRMP letter, the three letters dealing with legals, and if you have information, if you can get to it by then we could also discuss that. Otherwise, it would, I guess, have to wait.
I just need to know a date and a time, and we'll make our best effort to complete it by then.
Trustee Blank?
I'm a little confused. You are talking about adding things other than insurance to the two meetings on Thursday and Friday?
For Thursday and Friday, I suggested, if we have consensus, which that has not been determined yet, that we just add everything on today's agenda that we did not get to.
Okay,
Thursday and Friday agenda.
is discussion of the 9/21/23 trustee continuing education presentation, is that this?
Actually, if you're not going to be there, that would be pointless to have that on there. You're right.
Yeah, because I need some time. I would even be willing to address this with legal counsel, yeah, because I have some concerns. So I would like to see this on the regular October meeting.
Okay, so the rest of the things that we did not get to today will go on to that, and then
Wait, they'll go on to the regular.
they'll go on to the Thursday and or Friday agendas, other than the discussion of the 9/21 trustee continuing education. Trustee Henley?
So I think we jumped down to the last line item on the agenda, if that's correct. Setting special, is that what we talk about? What will be going on to the next meeting? What we'll be putting on the agendas for the next meeting? Because it sounds like that's where we are right now, Bill.
Yes, I believe so.
So
I'm sorry, Director.
yes, I would just say that I believe that we can discuss any possible ICRMP letter in open session. I don't believe that there's anything in the letter that is needed to be discussed in executive session. I think nothing specific. I did have a conversation with counsel, and I don't believe that anything was discussed there, except for some possible options that could be presented to the board. And so I'm just gonna mention that I believe we could discuss the ICRMP appeal letters in open session.
Okay, Attorney?
Chair Hudson, thank you. The amended letter to ICRMP, I agree, it's fine to release, to send, to authorize the director when that becomes appropriate. Because if we don't find ICRMP again, it doesn't really make sense to appeal. The only thing that I would say that I'm not entirely 100% in agreement on is, as a statement of the law, is that the 48-hour notice to a trustee includes an agenda. It's not precisely clear to me that that's a legal requirement. However, that is a best practice. And I think this goes to the policy we were stating before, that we should work up. If we're going to do an executive session, do we want to indicate kind of a topic without giving away the substance of it? So I would agree with that 48-hour agenda notice to the trustees as a best practice. But this letter, I think, looks good to me in terms of our communication to ICRMP and our appeal. So just so we don't need a further analysis from me, if you want to authorize the director to send that.
Okay, I have some issues with the letter, so I am not for authorizing it at this point.
Okay.
But we can discuss that further Thursday and or Friday, just because right now we don't really have time, or our time is now up. So
I have something I'd like to say.
Trustee Blank.
In response, section 33, 2719, it says, this is a Board of Trustees meetings. It says special or adjourned meetings may be held from time to time as the board may determine, but written notice thereof shall be given to the members at least 2 days prior to the day of the meeting.
Okay.
And so that's, that is where that 48 hours comes in. And that was essential to me when I saw this agenda yesterday and thought we were going to be discussing something that was important to me today, 2 days in advance, knowing that was on the agenda would have been much better. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so notice and agenda are different. I contacted ICFL and they confirmed that the notice is legally defined as who, where, and when, and the agenda is the what, and that doesn't necessarily have to be included. And they, did say that it was not, they're not our attorney and that's not legal advice, but that's been their experience and their opinion. Trustee Blank.
So you can put anything you want on the agenda and give it to us in 24 hours and we don't have time to look at it. That's my concern, is that it is not fair to trustees to have something thrown on the agenda and not be given a chance to look into it and come with some thoughtful response. I mean, that's what I would expect the public would expect of me.
Okay, well, even then, all this stuff was on today's agenda, which was sent out yesterday, so.
I'm not asking.
We'll have excuse me, I'm still talking. You would still have 48 hours agenda if that was your personal requirement. Anyway, so do we have consensus to add everything except for the discussion of the 921 trustee continuing education onto the Thursday and or Friday agendas? Or I guess I should just say and.
Just clarifying, so like the ALA resolution, I think we also said was going to be at the next regular meeting in October. And is that what I understood?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, if he just wanted a time and date and we're giving him Friday, I'd like to get that taken care of and not wait till the regular meeting. If he can give us a result, his analysis on Friday's meeting or Saturday or Thursday, whichever one, we should do it then.
Okay, so we have consensus on that?
What
I would go
if
for it.
Friday's meeting is canceled because I guess what I tried to cram all this stuff into these meetings when really the problem is insurance seems to be a disfavor to the library, to the staff, and to the public.
Okay, Trustee Henry.
I was going to say, I think because we're going to be meeting together, we might as well take advantage of knocking out a few extra things if we can fit them in. It's our agendas are fairly full most of the time, and I think that we should take advantage of the fact that we're meeting. We might as well accomplish as much as we possibly can.
Okay, so that was a yes consensus for the ALA thing on Thursday.
If I could just also add, I'm just trying to make sure so that I want to make the agenda. So we're going to have discussion and possible engagement of, I don't want to say new, but a liability insurance provider. And then we're still having review legal counsel recommendations, but is that to letters? Is that to ALA? And then we're having executive session or not having executive session. And then I think I heard, we're not having the continuing education, but then we always have the special meeting. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what's intended. And is there executive session first or after the discussion? And And then I would just point out that usually we try to have our board business at regular sessions because like in this case, Vanessa's not going to be here Thursday, Katie's not going to be here Friday. And so usually we try to get everyone here for those regular business items. So I would just point that out as a courtesy, usually that's been respected.
Okay, well, we've been discussing a lot of these things for quite some time. Anyway, Trustee Bloss.
So, and the ALA resolution, it's confusing. We passed it on the 21st. But did we really pass it? It was just supposed to get a blessing from legal counsel, and we need to bring that to closure. So I don't want to wait till the next regular meeting to do that.
Okay, so do we have consensus asking the attorney to do that by Thursday meeting if possible?
I'd like that.
I'm for it. Okay, so, and you're for it, so that's a consensus.
I'm sorry, I had my hand up.
Okay, Trustee Blank.
Does the attorney have enough time to get that done by then? Or would it be better? I mean, I think that we need to be careful about how legal we present ourselves at this point in time. And so that's all I want to know. I mean, that seems very short. If you can't do it now, are you able to answer the questions by Friday? Because if not, why put it on?
So if you're able, we would like that, but I think that there's something scheduled in here, and so we need to vacate the room as quickly as possible. Attorney, Wes?
You give me a deadline and we'll do whatever we gotta do to get it done. So,
Okay, so Thursday at 5 o'clock then.
Thursday at 5 o'clock. Sure.
Okay, yes. All right, so maybe we could start numbering the agenda items and then it would be easier to refer to them.
Yeah.
So the discussion, possible engagement, that should be on the next, on the Thursday and Friday agendas. The executive session should be,
For the letters.
the review of legal counsel line should be on there. Or should we go?
I think I'm
through this
gonna
one at a
edit
time?
that. I'll just have review legal counsel recommendations and then maybe release of resolution action item, because is it an action item if the attorney, again, I think one of our discussions should also be the practice of having attorney review before the board takes action. So
Yes, and I think if it's release of resolution related to the ICRMP letter and the ALA resolution, those need to be separate. So if there's any confusion there, split those out. I don't think the intent was that was in one line, but definitely don't put that on the same action item.
Okay, and approval of appeal letter to be sent to ICRMP should be on there, and the discussion of the 921 trustee continuing education should not be on there. Is that consensus, everyone? Say yes out loud.
and I will just edit that first one to take out new, just like in case we do something different.
Yeah, and removing the word no.
No, there isn't consensus. I mean, if you wanted everybody, because you are putting items on there, which one of them, both Vanessa and I will not be here, or another trustee and I will not be able to be here. And they are things that really impact the entire board. I realize we can get information for them afterwards, and but I am, I'm very uncomfortable with how much stuff is being shoved into meetings and not the whole board, not consideration for the whole board being in attendance.
Okay, trustee Plass is a yes, and trustee Blank is a no. Trustee Hanley?
Yes.
Yes, and trustee Addison is a yes. So let's put those things on the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
It has been moved to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. It is unanimous. The motion is carried and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.